Oh, this is a bit related.
Speak up.
What?
This is a bit related to that question, but on Fox News, more frequently, they'll like have a Hitler mustache on someone.
Huh. I hadn't noticed that, and I watch Fox.
One deck.
Oh, that's different.
That, anything? Any other person?
Yeah, you grew up in Indiana,
Right.
and coming across something like Dachau must have been completely, even compared to experience in combat, so completely foreign and so completely different. Did it change your perspective on what human beings are capable of, or did it?
No, because I guess we had seen several times prior to Dachau what humans are capable of doing. No, my perspective is still today. I think he was a SOB. To put it bluntly. It said, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Ralph, I know you mentioned that you got the folks from the surrounding area to come through. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that? Made them acknowledge that they pretended not to know.
I guess.
Do you know what she said?
Not really.
Didn't you get some of the villagers to come in and take a look and see what had happened?
No, you couldn't hardly get them to. You only get one or two. They didn't believe it. That's not it. And I guess that they had been taught that from childhood or something. Just a little about me. I grew up down Crane Ridge, you know where that is. My dad was a sharecropper, a farmer. And on September the 3rd, 1912, a farmer down across the line in Lawrence County and his wife had a beautiful daughter. About a year later, on August the 7th, 1913, 1913, I was born. And we grew up, we both went to one-room schoolhouse in our early years of education. Went about our business, going to school, what have you. I went on to school. And one night in Bedford, 1933, fall of 1933, I was introduced to a beautiful young lady. And I said, oh, I'd like to marry that chick. Well, on August 11th, 1934, we did it. The reason I'm saying this to you, if there are any of you old enough to remember 1934, there wasn't any money floating around. There wasn't any jobs floating around. A few jobs at maybe 10 cents an hour or $1 a day or 75 cents a day. I had wormed my way through teacher's training, and I taught school 3 or 4 years. And then I said to Ruth one Friday night, I'd graveled out enough money, and I bought an old Model A Ford for $50 and paid $20 down on it. And we were, I don't know, we'd been to the shore, maybe just rode around someplace, and I said, hey, why don't we get married tomorrow? It's all right to me. I said, I'll pick you up at 9 o'clock. I picked her up at 9 o'clock. I think I had about $9 total. That was the total. And she said, where are we going? I said, I don't know. We took off, we drove up to Bloomington here and over through Nashville, and I just kept driving over to Columbus, up the road to Columbus, to a town called Franklin. I said, this is a good place, let's go in here. This was Saturday morning now, and it was about 11 o'clock at that time. We went in. Boy, about all the offices were empty, but the judge was in his office. He said, could I help you? And I said, yeah, I'd like to get some marriage license. He said, well, I can handle that. And so he gets the information, fills out the license, said, what else? And I said, well, you want to marry us? Well, I can do that. So he married us. And we got married, and right, before he performed the ceremony, he said that the janitor was sweeping the floor down there. He said, hey, Joe, come here. Joe come up and he said, stand here now and just be quiet. So he performed a little ceremony. And I said, how much that be? And he said, $2. And I gave him $2. And he said, now give Joe a quarter for that. That was our honeymoon. I thought maybe you'd like to know. We went on. And my sister lived in Indianapolis. We went up there. They had to go to work. We went back home. We didn't tell anybody for a while. In fact, I did have him. I'm just sorry to take up your time on that.
No, we love
that. 1934.
Wow.
I got ahead of this. We have had a marvelous marriage. I said to Ruth, one thing before we get married, this is not going to be a marriage of arguments. This is going to be a marriage of peace and calm. And so it was. When it come time for me to go to service, Ruth was working. She stayed on the job. I went to Europe. She worked until I got home. And we have had that kind of life together. And it's rapidly, of course, coming to an end.
I know.
I got one little other thing. The first date I had, I went to her home to pick her up, and I said, what do you want to do tonight? She said, well, we're going to church. We went to church on our first. I just want to know that. I'll be glad to answer any other question I can about Dachau or anything. I got to add some other little thing. At the end of the war, my outfit housed up in Salzburg, Austria. Now, Salzburg, if any of you have been there, know it's a beautiful country and everything. And so they asked for some volunteers, and I volunteered to drive a truck. They said, we got to haul some food camps were finding. And what the Germans did, they just strung wire fence around the trees in the woods and put like 100 people in there, these inmates that they took, and drove away and left them. They didn't have any food, they didn't have any water, had nothing. They just out there. Well, they found these people, and so my first job was to go to Munich and get a load of rations and take them to these people up. And the guy that was over this operation said to a soldier, now Mac, remember, you can't let this food out, and you gotta cook it without making an odor. If these guys smell that food, they'll tear that fence down and come right at you. And so he said, well, we'll try. And he built him a little shack out beside some trees, and they cooked their supper that night. They fried them some potatoes and one little piece of bacon about that long that they could have and everything. But that's enough. I appreciate being here. I extremely appreciate this notation and things you've done for me. And thank you for all that you've done in the way of helping us.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you. We will finish, in Jewish tradition, there's a prayer called the Mourner's Kaddish, and it's a way of sanctifying, yeah, it's a way of sanctifying God. It actually doesn't mention death at all. Instead, it mentions the holiness of God and the beauty of God. Part of the explanation that is given traditionally for why this prayer is recited is because when a human being dies, it's not just we who suffer, but God is diminished through the death of human beings. As a parent mourns the death of a child, God mourns the loss of any human soul. And so we will recite the Mourner's Kaddish together, and this evening, in addition to those who perished at this time in years past, we also commemorate those who were victims of the Nazis and who lost their lives, beginning with Kristallnacht and for the next 8 horrible years. And we also remember this evening those American soldiers who gave their lives helping to rescue and redeem our people who suffered and who suffered horrors, who gave their lives to save a people that they didn't know and who were strangers. We rise now. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 598.